All right, so Joyce versus Zhilei Zhang has been announced for the undercard of Joshua versus Francis Ngannou, be co-main event. Now, boy, that's a hell of a heavyweight fight. It's a hell of a heavyweight fight. It's a competitive fight. It features two top 10 heavyweights. What's not to like? Zhilei Zhang lost to Filip Hrgovic in a fight that many people felt that he won the last time he was in Saudi Arabia. All right, many people felt that he did enough to win that fight. Personally, I've no real issue with Hrgovic getting the nod, but a lot of people do feel as though Zhilei Zhang did do enough to win, and it was a very, very competitive fight. Very competitive fight. Really could have went either way. Really could have went either way. Zhilei Zhang comes off the back of that to go in there against Joyce in April of 2023. Really, that was seen as Joyce just staying busy. A very dangerous stay busy fight, but staying busy, waiting for his crack at Alexander Usyk. He goes in there against Zhilei Zhang, and for 6 rounds, even though he had moments in the fight, very few, it was Zhilei Zhang clearly winning. Zhilei Zhang stops Joyce on an eye injury, and in a fight where he didn't drop him, but he buzzed him several times, and it looked at times as though Joyce could touch down. Immediately after that, you're thinking, what's he going to do? He rematches Joyce. In this fight, he actually goes in there and doesn't just beat Joyce again. He does it in an even quicker time. And he does it clean this time, a clean knockout. With Joseph Parker, he fought Joyce in September 2022, roughly a month after Zhilei Zhang lost to Filip Hrgovic. He loses by stoppage to Joyce in a fight in which he took a lot of shots, and a fight where I really looked and thought, all right, that's the end of Joseph Parker. He comes back and has a very lackluster performance against Jack Massey, a cruiserweight really, but then has two decent performances against lower level opposition, it's fair to say. But then goes in against Deontay Wilder and arguably puts on a career best performance. So it's really strange that Joyce, the guy who beat Joseph Parker, is now on the shelf really. I mean, he's talking about coming back in the month of March, but he won't be on any of these cards. Certainly not anytime soon anyway. The big shows in Saudi, I mean. So these guys meet each other. Now, I think this is a tremendous fight. It's a really tricky fight to call, because I can see on one hand how Joseph Parker wins, but I can see on the other hand how Zhilei Zhang wins. Zhilei Zhang is a very big physical man. He's massive. Believe me, I've seen Zhilei Zhang in person, in the flesh. I've been at his press conference. He is a big, imposing. I mean, him and Joyce, honestly, I mean, they are both big, very big, imposing characters. Huge men. Absolutely huge men. And Zhilei Zhang is also a big puncher. He's not the fastest heavyweight in the world, and he is getting up there in age. He's about 40 years old. So he's not the youngest heavyweight in the world. Contrast that to Joseph Parker, who's roughly about, I know he's been around a long time, about 32 years old. It's interesting, because I look at the Joyce fight, the rematch, and Joyce is very tentative. He couldn't get away from that left hand. He didn't have the speed, the reflexes to be able to do anything with Zhilei Zhang. But if you look at that first round, Joyce was just using his jab. He won that round. It's one of the only rounds he did win in the fight, was the first round in their rematch. He just used the jab. He moved a little bit, and Zhilei Zhang wasn't able to really land. He didn't have his timing quite right. Now, Joyce is more elusive, certainly, or Joe Parker says more elusive than Joyce, certainly. He's faster of hand and foot. I would still like to see Joe Parker be a bit lighter, but he is faster of hand and foot. He might not be as big a puncher, but Zhilei Zhang looks like he'd take a good shot, but does he have a granite chin? Probably not. Could he be outboxed for 12 rounds? Certainly possible. I mean, Filip Hrgovic looked like a fish out of water in that fight at times. I wouldn't imagine Joe Parker would look like that. He has good attributes in there. I think this could be a really intriguing fight. And if Joyce or Joe Parker does win, which I'm not ruling that out, it really does go to show how styles make fights. And how, in a way, it is rock, paper, scissors. That you just because fighter A beats fighter B doesn't mean necessarily that fighter A beats fighter C. I mean, Joyce beat Joe Parker. Fair. It wasn't that tough. Goes and gets knocked out by Zhilei Zhang. Joe Parker could come in here and beat Zhilei Zhang. And that's always, it doesn't matter what era you're in, however long boxing goes on for, that's always going to be the case. Styles will make fights. And if one fighter beats another, doesn't automatically mean he beats that fighter. That's the way boxing is always going to be. It's never going to change. I'm telling you now, it'll never change. That's the way boxing is. This is a really competitive fight. I'm really intrigued about this fight. The one thing I will say is that Joe Parker, as good as he looked against Deontay Wilder, Zhilei Zhang is not going to sit on the outside with a very lazy jab and not let any power shots go. He is not going to do that. So Joe Parker is going to want to be on his guard. He's been chinned already against Joyce. He's not taken a flush shot since then. How good is his chin after that knockout? Because bear in mind, Massey's not a puncher. Simon Keane's not a puncher. The other guy, I don't know if he was a puncher, but they're not really particularly big punchers. And they never were able to tag remotely close to Joe Parker. Deontay Wilder, massive puncher, never let the shots go. Zhilei Zhang's going to let them shots go. That's why it's so intriguing. You know, if there is any wear and tear from the Joyce fight, we're only really going to see it in this fight, really, I think. If you think about it like that, what could we see in the Deontay Wilder fight? He didn't do anything. So we're really going to see it in this fight. I think this fight is tremendous. Obviously, I ain't going to give a pick on it because I really need to have a look at both guys and kind of come to a concrete conclusion. Because right now I'm just thinking, I can see Parker winning, but at the same time I can see Zhang winning. I ain't going to give a pick on it, but what I will say, it's going to be a tremendous fight. And I do see this fight as a legit, genuine 50-50 fight. The winner of this fight is in a great place to negotiate at the tables. Potentially even pick up a world title because it's for an interim title. That's not like being mandatory. It's essentially one and the same, but you've certain benefits with being an interim champion. For one, if a title becomes vacant, you get elevated to full champion. Parker's already been WBO champion. He could be WBO champion again. Obviously, that was a vacant title, actually, when he won it against Andy Ruiz, which was a very competitive fight, very good fight. And that win's aged like a fine wine with Andy Ruiz, what he's done against Anthony Joshua. And being WBO interim champion means that if, say, Alexander Usyk wins and he has to vacate for whatever reason, say he retires, well, you're elevated to full champion if you win. And that means that if you're looking for a fight against someone like an Anthony Joshua, a rematch, well, you've got great bargaining power because, well, I'm coming in with a title. So you want to be undisputed, you have to rematch me. There you go. So it's an intriguing one. It really is. It's an intriguing fight, a lot to gain. And obviously with Zhilei Zhang, the same. He wanted Joshua fight. Well, there you go. I mean, he could be heavyweight champion of the world. We have never had a Chinese heavyweight champion of the world. He could be the first. So a lot riding on this fight. And I think it's a brilliant fight. I really do. There was a lot of talk, it'd be Wilder. Wilder's not even on this card. Is that an indication that he is done? Because I would have thought even if Wilder's name was mentioned or linked with this card, if he hadn't have been fighting Zhilei Zhang, he would have just fought somebody of a lower level. The fact he's not even on this card, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. As always, if you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. We've got plenty of work to do this week. There's a lot to talk about. When big news comes and there's big cards announced and stuff like that, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I have so much to talk about. There's so much to preview. There's so much to review when it's done. There's so much to talk about. That's what I got to say to people who say, you know, I'm looking to start a YouTube channel. What advice would you give? Talk about the latest news and talk about it a lot because it's latest news. People are caring about it. They want to know people's opinion on it. Don't just do one video and expect results. It doesn't work like that. I've got nearly 16,000 subscribers and I still talk about everything I can because people want to know about every little detail. They don't want to know about one thing. I think this fight is tremendous, hence why I'm talking about it. That's what I got to say on that. Let me know yours. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. Obviously, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Lads and lassies, I will leave it there. Peace.